We had an interesting media scrum yesterday with Dana White ahead of the UFC White House event, and Dana White claiming that UFC middleweight champion Sean Strickland is not banned from attending the event. This despite Strickland saying he was on social media posts. I got a whole theory on this thing. I'll talk about it in a second, but let's first listen to Dana White and this clip courtesy of Aaron Bronstetter. I've seen a lot of outlets not credit Aaron. Just it takes 2 seconds. Credit Aaron for the clip. Give him his props. He's in Washington doing the event. It would be nice to see people do a better job of that. But anyways, here's Dana White talking about Sean Strickland not being banned here. So let's check it out.
And Sean Strickland is he actually banned from the White House fight? Because he said he's banned.
Everybody's banned apparently. Yeah. Apparently fucking everybody is banned. Of course Sean Strickland is. Sean Strickland is banned from humanity, okay? We don't want him near any human beings anywhere. Fucking shows up at Power Slap, he starts fights, and he made it very clear that he didn't want to be a part of this event, and now apparently he's banned. Nobody is banned, nobody's music is banned, no media members have been banned, and the list goes on and on. This is obviously a very unique event where, first of all, there's only so much room. And she was telling me that, at the White House, there's 1,000 media members that are credentialed at the White House. So, 1,000 people are like, oh, we're all going to know. We can't have 1,000, of the White House media members just show up at this thing. There's only 4,300 tickets to actually seat. So literally nobody has been banned from this event. I saw something today on social media that said, Diego's music was banned. That's the song he's walking out to. The song was never banned. It was never brought up. It was never mentioned. There's a lot of bullshit floating around out there right now. Nobody's banned. Nothing is banned. We're going to do, I want as many people to be inside this thing and experience it as possible. If we could have done more seats, if we could have done, I'd have done more. I mean, that's why we opened up the Ellipse.
So Dana White, very adamant, Sean Strickland not banned. And this is sort of on brand with Dana in general. If you go back to when Sean Strickland had that whole issue at UFC, I forget which event it was, the Toronto event when he fought Dricus for the title, Dana White's saying that, he's a proponent of free speech and he's sort of been consistent with this for a while. So I'm not shocked to hear Dana say this, whether I believe it or not, that's a separate story. Sean Strickland responding to this, saying to Dana saying I was invited. I'll clarify this for you. After my fight with Hunter, he said he will get it done. UFC filmed it and Embedded had the footage. I later got a call from the UFC saying I wasn't cleared by the White House. So again, those are two different things, right? Dana White saying, I haven't banned Sean Strickland, but maybe the White House has stepped in and said otherwise. Strickland then making a joke saying I'm sounding like Jake Shields, might have to take an X break and all that. That's a whole different story, but I thought that was kind of a funny tweet. My take on this is I think Sean Strickland isn't allowed in the White House. I think there probably was something made. Like, here's the thing we got to look at. Sean Strickland, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, and let me know in the comments. When have you ever caught Sean Strickland lying about something? Right? He's about as honest as it gets, almost too honest sometimes, right? Where he says some things that, cross the line, that ruffle some feathers. I never get the sense from Strickland as someone who's interviewed him a bunch of times and has, been around him. He's not the type of person to just lie about something like this. He's certainly not the type of person to lie about this for clout, where he wants to get sympathy or whatever. That's not Strickland's brand. He's the exact opposite, if anything. So I think the whole story, and again, if we go back to when Strickland said he was banned in the first place, we can read this here. I talked to Hunter yesterday about the White House ban and he just laughed it off and we carried on. Regardless of the administration fascist views on speech, UFC's holding the line on the First Amendment. So, again, like Strickland had talked about how he had got a call, I believe, to his management and then the management to him, or maybe directly. I'm not sure. I wasn't able to find the original thing, but no, I do think he probably isn't allowed in there. And, again, I don't agree with it. I think that Sean Strickland should be allowed there. They have enough security there as far as worrying about anything. Dana White kind of joked about how he got into a fight at Power Slap. Like, you're going to have the most security possible at this White House event. So I don't think that's like a reason. Is it because of some of the things that he said politically, potentially? But I don't, again, I don't think that's a reason to not let Strickland into the event here. So I think this is just Dana trying to save face, because if Dana said he was banned, that's going to kind of go back on everything else he's been saying consistently for the last number of years, where he's like, I don't want to put a leash on these guys. Remember, that was the big quote out of it was 297, by the way, was the event. I think 297 in Toronto back in, I think, 2024 when Strickland fought Drickus, and there was that whole issue with Strickland and the reporter. This is kind of along the same lines where Dana White's being like, what do you mean? I'm not going to police these guys when it comes to free speech. So we'll see what actually happens the night of the fights. I believe Strickland said he was going to the event. We'll see if he's able to get in. He's certainly going to probably document it at the very least, whether it's a video or some tweets to let us know if he does end up getting in. So yeah, that's my take on this. Is I do believe he isn't allowed in, despite what Dana's saying here. As far as media not being banned, there is actually media that's banned from covering UFC events. We don't need to go over the whole list, but like Josh Gross's one is an example. So Dana saying that, there's no media that's banned. He also says that there's 1,000 media members, that applied for credentials and they can't let everyone in. That's understandable. I don't think you can have that many media there, especially if it's 1,000. It's certainly not people who are covering MMA on a regular basis. It's people who probably just wanted to get, a cage side seat or, be a part of the event. I understand them limiting that. That's fine. But technically, if you're denying them for credentials, that's also kind of a ban too. So a lot of things that are kind of said here as well. Another thing I wanted to tie into this, which I think kind of goes along the lines of Dana just, sort of posturing his position. We got this quote the other day, and I think this ties into this a little bit. You can see the quote here. It says, Dana White says the original plan was Tom Aspinall versus Alex Pereira. My buddy Adam Martin writing this up. I don't believe this was the original plan because Aspinall, as far as I know, has never been cleared. It's funny that this comes out to like earlier this week about Dana saying that, we wanted to do Pereira and Tom Aspinall when Aspinall's manager came out saying he's not going to fight again until he renegotiates his contract, which, by the way, I've been very vocal about that. I think Eddie Hearn is making a huge mistake trying to play hardball with Dana White and how UFC contracts are structured. It's not going to end well for Tom Aspinall. So I'm against that, just so people know. I do want to see Tom fight and compete, and I want him to be compensated well, but this is not the way to do it. But this is another kind of posturing move here by Dana, trying to make it out like, well, we tried to get Aspinall on the card. No, wasn't the original plan Alex Pereira and John Jones? Wasn't that a thing for like a while that was being discussed? And of course, it never came to fruition. And by the way, I called that. I said John Jones is never going to fight again, but not going to give myself too much credit there. But what's this original plan was Aspinall Pereira. I thought the original plan was Jones and Pereira. So again, this is just another example of Dana White saying one thing, but we get a different result there. So again, I'm not blaming Dana for doing this. Like, I get it. You got to have good PR and good press, but again, if I'm going to believe, pick between two people to believe, Sean Strickland, or the promoter of the biggest MMA organization in the world, I'm going to listen to Strickland as far as who's being honest here, because Strickland doesn't really have anything to lose. Dana does. Dana's, again, he runs a very powerful empire here with the UFC, with Zuffa Boxing, everything else. So yeah, we'll see what ends up happening here. Does Strickland end up getting in? Does he cause a ruckus? We'll see. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens on Sunday for the event. So I thought this was kind of interesting just because this is sort of Dana speak 101. And again, another quick example too. Remember Dana saying, we didn't announce the Conor McGregor Max Holloway fight on purpose at the same time the Francis Ngannou fight was going on. Of course they did. Like that. But I don't blame Dana for doing that. But like, he's saying this because there are casual fans who are going to be tuning in this week to the White House card that don't regularly watch MMA, and they're going to believe this. But I think to the rest of us, we know that this isn't the case, that Sean probably is still banned. So yeah, just wanted to give my quick take on this. Dana White working the PR machine, and Sean Strickland, we'll see if he ends up getting in there. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments about this whole situation. Do you believe Dana? Do you believe Sean? Let me know. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.